This brings us up to the next person. Let me get my scroller rolled down here. This brings us to the very next person in our list of notes, and this is Joseph. Joseph, we've been looking at Joseph in Sunday school, in church. I've been teaching Sunday school, and this is Joseph is a great picture of Jesus Christ. He's a wonderful prototype. Matter of fact, if I have time at the end of this, I'm going to pull up some notes and I'm going to share with you some things that Jesus and Joseph have in common, if I got time to do that. Joseph became a favorite of the father. He became highly favored of Jacob, because he was the son of his old age. Now, because of this favor that Joseph had on his life from his father, his brothers hated him. And there was a lot of fighting, a lot of arguing, a lot of spitting and clawing, so to speak. And this led to Joseph being abducted by his brothers, taken and sold into slavery. But I want to share something with you. I'm going to share something now, and I'm going to give you the end of it when we get to the end of Genesis. When Jacob sent his son Joseph to check on the whereabouts of his father, of his brethren, it says in Genesis chapter 37, verse 15, and a certain man found him, speaking of Joseph, and behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, what seekest thou? And he, Joseph, said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, they are departed hence. And for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. That's very important, because that Hebrew word, a certain man, means a man that stands out above all men, above all people, from all times. And there's only one man that fits that criteria, that's Jesus Christ. Jewish history from the book of Jasher says this was the angel of the Lord. If this was indeed the angel of the Lord, then of course it was Jesus Christ. You get to the end of Genesis chapter 50, and Joseph says that what they meant for wicked to sell them into slavery, he says the Lord meant for good. So Joseph is telling you that this was the Lord in this particular place. And that of course, that comes 100% out of Scripture. So we have where he's sold down into slavery. Now, I got a few minutes. We might run a little bit over time, but it's important that I share with you this story from Genesis chapter 38. It's a parenthetical story. As far as you and I are concerned, it doesn't fit. It doesn't belong. And if you and I were writing a book, hey, leave that chapter out. We would have left this chapter out because it doesn't belong. It really doesn't. You got a good story going on here. Joseph is on his way into Egypt, and then boom, Genesis chapter 38, Judah and Tamar. Here's what happens. Judah, after Joseph was sold into slavery, there was great mourning in the family of Jacob. And one of the wives, one of his four wives had actually died. Leah and Rachel lived. I think Scylla had she survived. I think it was Bilhah that passed away. But anyway, it brought great grieving to the family. So what the sons of Jacob, the brothers of Joseph, they went out and they took wives. And Judah had three sons. He had a son named Onan, and Selah. And he took a woman named Tamar to marry for but he passed away. He died. And then what happened was he following the laws of the land, his brother Onan had taken her to be a husband to, and he was to raise up a seed for his dead brother, raise up dead seed for his brother. But he didn't want to. He spilt his seed on the ground or on the rock, and then God condemned him and killed him. And that's what happened to Onan. And then Salah was too young, and he was too young to be given in marriage. So what Judah did, he sent Tamar away. He says, when Salah gets older, then I'm going to bring him back, and you can marry him. But what happened is Salah got older, but Judah apparently didn't want to give his son to marry Tamar because he didn't want to keep losing sons. And you can almost understand that. But Tamar heard that Judah was being ungodly with this, and he wasn't fulfilling his obligation to take care of her because she needed a husband, and he was obligated to do this. The family was. So what does she do? She does the only thing she can think to do. So she hears, Judah's going to be up here with his sheep right down the road. So I got this plan. I'm going to dress up like a prostitute. That's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to seduce my father-in-law. Wow. How's that for a Bible story? You don't hear that in Sunday school that often, do you? But that's exactly what she did. And when it came time for payment, look at what was said. Well, let's back up here. I'm going to start reading chapter 38, verse 24. And it came to pass about 3 months after it was told that Judah saying, the daughter-in-law hath played the harlot. Okay, she had played the harlot. Okay. And also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burnt. So he was going to put her to death. Now keep in mind, he don't know that he's the one that got her pregnant. That's some soap opera stuff right there, people. You can't make this stuff up. And so he's going to put it out. And he says, when she was brought forth, she said to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, I am with child. And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? And she threw down the signet ring and the bracelets and the staff. And this is what Judah gave. He said, I don't have any money, but I do have my signet ring, my bracelets, and my staff, and I'll give these to you. And then I'll go get money and come back to you. Well, she left, and when he came back to pay her, she wasn't nowhere to be found. And she still had this stuff. And this is how Tamar got Judah. She said, you're the one that got me pregnant. Look, this stuff you gave me that night. You can only imagine how embarrassed Judah would have felt. And look at what it says, verse 26. And Judah acknowledged them and said, she hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not Shelah, my son, and he knew her again no more. So there's no more relations. That's very, very important that we see this. But why would God give us this Torah tale, this racy tale? What happened when excuse me, I got a little Afghan on this chair, and it's getting caught on the wheels. When she gave birth, there was twins in her womb. One was called Perez, and the youngest one was called Zerah. Now, I want to share something with you. What's that got to do with anything? We're talking about Joseph. Listen to this. This is a beautiful little nugget of Bible prophecy. If you go, let me save my place here, to Deuteronomy chapter 23. Let's go to Deuteronomy 23. Where's Deuteronomy? There it is. Deuteronomy 23. Deuteronomy 23. Listen what it says. It says, a bastard shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord, even to his 10th generation shall he not enter into the congregation of the Lord. So now this guy, because of his illegitimacy, he's not allowed to enter into the congregation of Israel. He's not supposed to have any real inheritance or anything for 10 generations. Now, I love what the next verse in Deuteronomy 23 says. In verse 3, it says this, an Amorite or a Moabite shall not enter into the congregation of the Lord. Even unto their 10th generation shall they not enter into the congregation of the Lord forever. So basically, if you're an illegitimate child, you can't have it. You can't be known as a citizen for 10 generations. You can't have legitimacy there. And it's also forbidden if you're an Ammonite, which is one of Lot's sons, Abimelech, became the father of the Ammonites. And if you're a Moabite, that's completely forbidden too, which Moab was the son of Lot. So why should all this matter? Who cares, right? Okay, let me show you something. Let's go to the book of Ruth real quick. Check this out, Ruth. If you go to Ruth, and I want to assume that you're familiar with the story with Ruth and Boaz. It says that when Ruth conceived a child from Boaz, look at what it says in chapter 4. Starts verse 18. Now, these are the generations of Perez. He begot Hezron. Hezron begot Ram. Ram begat Aminadab. Aminadab begot Nahshon. Nahshon begot Solomon. Solomon begot Boaz. And Boaz begot Obed. And Obed begot Jesse. Jesse begot David. Okay, that's King David. Now, look at this. Ruth was a Moabitess, so it was against the law to marry her, so she was out of the picture. No, she couldn't have proper fellowship for 10 generations. Perez was a bastard. He was illegitimate, so he couldn't have proper connections with the children of Israel for 10 generations. Look at this. You got Perez, you got Hezron, Ram, Aminadab, Nahshon, Solomon, Boaz, Obed, Jesse. The 10th generation was King David. How do you like that? How do you like that? God was not punishing Perez for being illegitimate. He said, starting with Perez, we're going to have a countdown to the king of Israel, a man after my own heart. Woo! I got chills on that one. I don't know about y'all, but that's some good stuff right there. And that's exactly, we think that sometimes when God does stuff, he's punishing us, but he's not. That's not what's going on. He's preparing us for what God has for us. He's preparing us for what the Father has. And it's a wonderfully beautiful time for prosperity, what God wants for us, what he wants to give us and move with. Very, very good stuff. So this gets us to Genesis chapter 9. Technically, if we end at 8 o'clock, we got 6 minutes to go, but that's okay. We're going to go a little bit over, and that's fine. Joseph was beginning to have his trials because when he came into Egypt, Potiphar knew that he wasn't a slave. He knew something wasn't right, and he actually put him in a position. He had to, according to the Jewish history again, he had to, he wanted proof that he was a slave. And of course, they were able to get proof that he was bought, from the Canaanites, his brothers. But anyway, Potiphar put him in charge of his entire house. And that wasn't necessarily a good idea, we think, because why? Because there was a lonely housewife, Potiphar's wife, and she tried to seduce, Joseph, and that didn't work. So what did she do when she didn't get away with Joseph? She framed him and set him up. How you like that one? And so he ends up going to prison. And after a while, he's elevated to being like a taskmaster, if you will, over the prison. And these two prisoners, a butler and a baker, have dreams, and Joseph interprets those dreams for him. And in those dreams, the baker, the butler had the let's look at the butler's dream real quick. If I can find my proper reading spot. I got spots on my glasses and I can't see them properly. Joseph said to the butler, there's the baker. Okay. Said the Pharaoh's cup was, this is what the butler said. He said he had a dream. He said, the Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. I took the grapes and I pressed them in the Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into the Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, these is the interpretation of it. He said, the 3 branches of grapes that you saw, these are 3 days. And within 3 days shall the Pharaoh lift down up thy head and restore thee into the place, and thou shalt, deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner when thou wast the butler. Now, when the chief baker saw this interpretation and it was good, he said, hey, Joseph, I also was in my dream, and beheld, I had 3 white baskets of on my head, and the uttermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for the Pharaoh, and the birds did come and eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, this is the interpretation thereof. 3 baskets or 3 days? So far, so good. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off of thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass on the 3rd day, it was Pharaoh's birthday, that a great feast was made unto all the servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler, and the chief baker among his servants, and he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he gave the cup of Pharaoh's hand, and he hanged the chief butler as Joseph had interpreted them on each of them. Yet the chief butler remembered Joseph, but he did not remember him, but he forgot him. And so now it's about 2 years later, and Joseph is now, Pharaoh has had these 2 troubling dreams, the ones of the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine. Joseph comes to interpret them. And because of this, when he's brought up out of the dungeon, he actually shaves himself. He cleans himself up really good. He's not like, some, scraggly old Canaanite anymore. He's clean shaven. He's presented himself to the Pharaoh, and all this is in Genesis 41. And he interprets the dreams of Pharaoh. And in doing so, he says, you need to find someone that's capable, someone that's able, put him in charge of these storehouses and store up the grain. And Pharaoh says, well, I can't think of anyone better to do the job than you. And that's when Pharaoh makes Joseph a ruler in all the land of Egypt, and he gives him a new name, Zephnath-Paneah, and he marries Asenath, who's from I believe the city of On at that time, where her father was a priest. And in the process of time, Joseph's brothers come to buy food. When they get there, Joseph recognizes them, but they don't recognize him because he looks like an Egyptian. And he begins to set a little snare for them to kind of get them thinking properly what they need to be doing. And he wants to test them, see if they've shown any remorse for what they did to him several years earlier. And this is what happens. He tells them, he said, what he's going to do. He'll give them money. They'll give them money, and they'll buy they'll buy the grain with it. And he says, but I'm going to keep one of you behind. So he keeps Simeon, and he sends them back. He says, here's what I want you to do. You told me that your father's still alive, and that's good. But you also told me you got a kid brother, this young guy, Benjamin. I'm going to keep Simeon here, but you go get Benjamin and bring him down here. I want to see him.